If I could describe the Get My Life tour in one word, it would be vulnerability. Showing up for yourself is so important. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. Hey y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life tour. I am your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and like always, I am extremely excited to have you here on the Get My Life tour. I am so glad to be back after resting and taking time to get ready for the new year. And I'm super excited because I received this incredible from someone asking me if I'd like to be introduced to this phenomenal woman. And I literally could not pass after reading a post that she wrote that resonated with me so much. And it's about mental gridlock and clarity and transitioning as a Black woman. Hello, I qualify and check all three boxes that apply. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you all to Randi B. Randi, thank you so much for joining us here on the Get My Life tour.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I'm smiling ear to ear. Like I said, I check all three of those boxes. And when I read your piece, I was like, hmm. But before we go into what the piece actually is, let me properly introduce you to everyone here on this stop of the tour. Randi B is a diversity and inclusion strategist, speaker, trainer, and writer who focuses on making connections and cultivating empathy in this diverse world. She is also the author of Never Says 25 Phrases You Should Never Say to Keep Your Job and Friends. Hello, somebody. And she is affectionately known as a sister intended, which can be defined as an empowered Black woman leading inclusivity efforts to create a place of belonging for everyone, a badass diversity and inclusion strategist, author, speaker, and trainer, and you guessed it, Randi B. Welcome again.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you are so welcome. So, I just really want to start off by asking you, in your own words, who is Randi B?
It depends day to day. No, I am, I am, of course, a family person, but I would say my mission is really just trying to get people to get along better.
Mm,
Like I have for years try to go into communities, organizations, and teach people how to work with one another. It's hard enough just in our families where we know each other and we have a lot in
mhm.
common. But think about how hard it is when you have people from different backgrounds, from all different types of experiences, race, all from all places in the country. And then you put them in an office and say, okay, everybody get along. And
Right.
even if people have good intentions and say, hey, I'd like to get along with everybody, sometimes we don't have the skills to do so. We don't have a whole lot of EQ sometimes, or just
Yes.
practical knowledge on how you talk to people. So that's what I do. I try to make things go more smoothly so everybody feels as if they belong.
That's such important work. I really feel at times like belonging is such a buzzword
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, but
Mm-hmm.
people don't really know what it means to create an environment where everyone feels like they truly belong. So, with that being said, tell us more about, the work that you do. I know you just outlined it for us here, but tell us about the work that you do with women and how your journey led you to championing for women as assistant attendant. I love that term.
Thank you so much. It's so funny. I came up with that term because I realized that I wasn't owning myself. Here I
Mm,
was traveling across the country telling people that diversity was great and we should accept people and their differences. But I was doing a lot of training in the tech world. And oftentimes, I was the only woman in the room. And so I would only wear pants. I can tell you for years, I only wore pantsuits, never dresses, never skirts,
wow.
because foolishly and for some reason in my mind, which sounds really ridiculous now, I thought, I don't want to point out that I'm a woman.
Mm.
Right? As if they couldn't tell. Because I was trying to blend, which, of course, clearly I didn't feel as if I could belong because I was uncomfortable about my gender, you know?
Mm.
And so once I matured personally and professionally and said, how can I ask people to bring their whole selves if I'm not doing it? And
Right.
so Sister Intended kind of embodies who I am. And it says, Sister, I'm Black.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a woman, but I'm also an expert in this field, like a superintendent.
I love
And
that.
so just even the name just shows, who I am and owning it. And so what I do with women is encourage them to become comfortable in their womanness, but in their expertise, in their got it going onness, in their strengths, to own all of it and not feel as if woman being a woman is something they have to hide or apologize for. But it's
That
actually
is true.
something that should be something to be proud of because I'm doing it.
Right. Ownership of self is so important and plays a huge role in how we show up. I think so many of us don't feel like we belong because we haven't done the work as it relates to how we show up and who we are. What are your thoughts on that?
Gosh, what you're saying is so true because we will have done the work as far as getting our degrees. We may have like a bomb resume, great jobs, internships, etc. But we haven't done the work that makes us feel comfortable ourselves. And,
Hmm.
one thing I stress when I go out and work with organizations is, sometimes we look to organizations to create a place of belonging. And they should make a place that is conducive to everyone feeling like they belong. But also, we have some responsibility, to work on ourselves so that we can walk in being comfortable with ourselves. I mean, some of us don't feel as if we belong anywhere. I mean,
Mm.
I was that person, right? I was that person that didn't feel as if she quite fit in anywhere I went, right? Um, which is why it was just sometimes easier to be at home and watch cable. So
Right.
I mean, and I still have those days. I still have those times, but I have worked on myself
Hmm.
where I don't have as many moments where I feel like I don't belong, that imposter syndrome. So there is work that you must do to to feel comfortable with yourself,
Hmm.
and you have to ask yourself the question: Who am I? What matters to me? How have I prepared to be ready for this position, this job, this organization, this goal I have? And to own those things and to continue to work on yourself and to continue to have talks with yourself. That self talk is very important.
Right. It is. We talk ourselves out of so much and we
Hmm.
disqualify ourselves just because of the things that we believe about ourselves or our circumstances in moments where we just really aren't sure.
I tell people, my mother died when I was very young. Both my parents died when I was young. And it made me realize, while it's, yes, sad, of course, but it also is like it gave me life. Like the second time, because I recognize the preciousness of life. I recognize
Mm.
that, sometimes you may not have a shot at second and third and fourth chances, and to go for it. Like, I got to get my life. I got to get and go after my goals. Like, I got to do it because I don't know if tomorrow's promised. And so it gives me that extra push. I don't have time to be wallowing in my fear and self doubt and all of that. I got to get some stuff done because there are some things that I want. And who knows how long I have, how much time I have to accomplish those things.
Mhm.
Right. So I think for me that was a big changing moment. I mean, no, that
Yeah.
probably was the biggest changing moment. My biggest let me get my life moment.
And I remember in our conversation um, when we were getting acquainted, you
Yes.
highlighted like the operative word in, the Get My Life tour is my. And what I hear you saying now is that you realize that you had to take charge and continue to live, which is such a beautiful thing. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to speak in the last season with
Mm-hmm.
to someone who spoke about grief and caring for a parent
Mm-hmm.
who she is losing essentially, right, to an illness. But the my in the life is so key, and the fact that you choose life and to live even through your loss, it says so much about the work that you are doing. I think some of us go into spaces and we lose ourselves, or we exit places in times of transition. We're focused on the loss, but we're not focusing on how much more life or
Um,
opportunity or
Lydia, you're so
chance that
correct.
we
I know,
have
like,
in
I
front of
try to live
us.
my
So
life
thank you for
by
sharing.
in a way that honors the people I've lost. So not to get swallowed up in the loss, because that's not honoring them,
Mm,
but actually to take the loss and have it motivate me and say, I owe it to them, and in honoring them to live the very best life I possibly can.
yeah, that is so good. My goodness. I love passing the collection plate because I'm just like, you are preaching right now. Uh, you most definitely are. And I now want to jump into this blog post because, like I said, that helped me
Mm-hmm.
get my life. I read it a couple of weeks ago now, or almost a month ago, and I felt like you were speaking to me. Mental gridlock and clarity. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that was the terminology. Clarity,
Yeah.
yes. Mental gridlock, I did not realize I was sitting at so many different intersections in my mind. Oh my goodness. Can you tell us more about that post?
I write weekly, and I didn't even know what to write because I couldn't think clearly about any one subject because my brain was so crowded with my own ish, right? I just, the way I describe it in the article is that I was like on an LA
Mm-hmm.
freeway, like I was on the 101, you know, and I couldn't move. Right. I was in my
Mm-hmm.
car, it was gassed up, everything. I know I should go, but I can't move. And that's how I felt, like I couldn't function. And it was just so frustrating because I didn't know what to do. And I get that way sometimes when you're just even trying to sort out, what's right, what's wrong, how should you be thinking. So much noise comes at us, just like when you're on the highway. You have your thoughts, but you also have your family's thoughts and your friends' thoughts, and you have the media's thoughts, and you've got, you know, the old stuff from the past talking to you, and you're just you're just confused, right, about what to do a little bit, and you're stuck. You just become
Yeah.
stuck for a moment, and that's really hard if you're a type A person because we're not good at just sitting still. You're right. And waiting. We think we're not doing anything if we ain't moving.
Right. Oh.
And you know, and so the first struggle is to teach
Mm.
yourself.
Oh
Actually,
my
sometimes you're
goodness.
doing the very best thing, to sit and just be okay with sitting in that space. And maybe you're stuck there because you can't move. Maybe you're stuck there, I mean, because you shouldn't move. And maybe you should just sit until what the right
Mm.
decision is or the right choice is comes to you. But that's hard.
That is so hard. It is so interesting that you said that, and this shows me how much of alignment we are in
It
together.
is.
I actually wrote not too long ago that resting is doing something, and it was a note to myself that I like had to write and then share. I felt compelled to share because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so many of us are just on the go. I am always on the go. And it's not
Right.
something that I take pride in because I'm like, whoa, I really actually would like to sit down and have a seat. But I understand where I am in this season in my life. And I'm most definitely grateful. But I also want to be
Yes.
fair to myself and not allow my calling to kill me, right? But what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, be still, you know, the Bible says, be still and know. I'm like, oh my goodness. And here you are saying it again. And I think it's so timely that we're having this conversation, right? Because in the new year, in 2020, I think a lot of people are going to be trying to figure out which direction they should go in. And, some people will
Yes.
become
Yes.
stuck, what you called mental constipation, right? Or mental gridlock in your piece, which is incredible.
When things like the new year come, we think that we're supposed to
Mm,
have all these answers, right? Like this, we think 2020, this is going to be it for me. Let me have these.
right,
And it's on our time. It's not because all of a sudden it's the new year. Like all of, we're supposed to have all the answers. It doesn't work like that. And to
right.
be okay and to be your own best friend. Like what's crazy is if your girlfriend calls you and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I can't even think
Mm,
about what I want to do." We would say, "Girl, just chill. It's okay. Relax. Girl, get you a bubble bath. Go get a manicure." We'd say that to a friend, but for some reason, we can't be a friend to our own selves a lot of times. I think it's also important that we talk about. I think it's hard for harder for Black women. I think women makes it hard, and then Black women that's double dose.
most definitely.
Hmm.
That brings me to your piece. And I actually have this highlighted. You wrote, being Black has felt like too much lately. Being a woman has felt like too much lately. Being a woman who is shifting careers, heck, being a woman who is shifting in all caps, has felt like too much lately. It takes all my energy to just continue to make, do, and live. That is hard to muster any energy, excuse me, to then share my experience
Child.
or thoughts. I was like, let me highlight this right here. And then you add being a Black
Hmm.
woman on to that. It is a lot, right? And to your point, we have to be kind to ourselves. I really think that, hearing that as a Black woman is a good reminder. We rely on so many other people.
We don't rely on anybody.
Mm,
And honestly, sometimes think that we don't have the freedom or
okay.
the right. We see it as a sign of weakness to rely on people or to ask others for help. I think that the strong Black woman figure has hurt us more than anybody else. And we absolutely are strong. We've had to be. We've had to be, right? But I try to encourage
Hmm.
sisters today to be human first, and to be tired,
That's good.
be need a break, ask for it, and to rely on other people. I don't think we do that well. I think, I don't know if you've seen this meme that goes out and they say, "What's the hardest thing for you to say?" And it says, "I love you," "I'm sorry," or "I need help." And if I'm honest, I need help. And that's sad. I mean, I could tell you I love you all day.
Yes, I need help.
I can say I'm sorry. I have no
Yeah.
problems admitting when I'm wrong. But asking for help and admitting that I need help is something that I am learning to do.
You are so right. I'm glad that you challenged me on that because I was thinking
Hmm.
of relying on others as
Hmm.
a way to cop out on relying on ourselves, right? But I love that you
Oof.
challenged me on that because being the strong Black woman gets exhausting. And I think that we
Yes,
don't do our checkups from the neck up and say, I do need help. You're right. You are so right.
totally.
And I feel like a lot of our mental gridlock comes from that mentality of I can do it by myself.
Help comes in the form of sitting around with your girlfriends with a glass or a bottle or two bottles of wine or three bottles if it's my girlfriend's, and just talking through it, just talking, and relaxing or focusing on someone else's issues sometimes helps you to think through your own, but just taking the time to chill out and relax, I think is so helpful. And honestly, being honest,
Hmm.
I tell people as I've gotten older, my time is my most precious commodity, And so I do not surround myself with people that I have to fake like everything's perfect. People with the
Most
perfect
definitely.
marriages, the perfect kids, the perfect careers, the perfect life, I don't want to be friends with them. I just don't, because one, I know that you're not telling the truth, because life isn't perfect. And I need to be around people that I can say,
Right?
I just want you to know that my kids are screwing up right now. I can't stand my man. And right now the career is stressing me out. And I want to be able to do that and feel comfortable, and not feel as if I'm being judged because I'm talking to someone who has it all.
That is so key, especially,
Oh my goodness.
especially in this digital and social age. We spend so much of our lives online, and I feel like it does some delaying of like who we are, and how we show up in the real world when we're offline. And that whole faking it until you make it, and every other thing that's along the
Hmm.
lines of those mantras becomes so much more true online. So I'm so glad you said that, because I think so many of us are in
Hmm.
competition with, let's say, pseudo versions
Well, and then if
of
people
other
need to
people.
understand that it's
So
just a
that's really
snapshot. I mean,
key.
I'm
Oh
in
my goodness, that's
competition
so
with my
good.
own self. I mean, because, and by that I mean, on Randy B's Instagram page, my life looks good, right? Because I'm not snapping pictures of me washing 6 loads of laundry, um, and breaking up a fight with my kids or whatever. I'm not taking pictures of most of my existence. I'm snapping a picture when I'm at a wonderful restaurant in Ghana having, my makeup done and a great meal. And so, I try to remind people, like, that stuff you see with me is not even real. Like, that's like 10%, not even 10, that's like 5% of my life. The people who read me, they know, because I'm half the time on there, you know, crying, talking about talking about my mental gridlock, or, just talking about life in general. But, Instagram is just a picture. It just captures like that 1 second and doesn't tell the full story. And we have to remember that.
It's so true, right? And we know
Hmm.
clarity is, it's a very small word, when you're like, oh, clarity, oh, okay, cool, right?
Hmm.
But I was like, let me actually go look up the
Hmm.
definition of clarity, because I know, right, in layman's terms, it means to be clear, right? But I'm looking here, and it's like the quality of being coherent or
Hmm.
intelligible, or the quality of transparency or purity.
Right. It
Clarity is
is.
bigger than what a lot of us think it is. And it requires big action. How have you been able to remain clear on who you are?
Sometimes just talking, like talking with you right now, reminds me of my
Mm,
purpose. Um, and also just time, that being still that we talked about earlier, being still and reminding myself of what it is that I want.
yeah,
So I go around and work with different organizations. But about a month ago, or no, a couple weeks ago, I had a cold call from a company wanting me to come and head their, D&I department. And they were being very generous. And for a second, it was alluring because I like money. Money's good, and maybe I wouldn't have to fly coach next time. I don't know, but it was it was intriguing for a moment, but only for a moment, because I just had to sit and say, what is it that you want? What is your purpose? And I haven't gone in house because I feel that the only way things will change is if people are honest. And I know in house, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to be candid and honest. And the
Mhm.
way I work, because I'm working for myself, it's easier for me, and companies give me more bandwidth to be honest about the world, right? When you're the D&I person, it's almost like your job oftentimes is to say, oh, diversity is great,
Yeah.
diversity is great. And I'm kind of the person who says, okay, but diversity and inclusivity and getting along with each other is hard. And let's talk about the ways that it's been hard, and let's create some practical solutions. I make people look at and be honest about the stories that come up in the
Yeah.
news all the time that they don't want to talk about, because that's the only way you can change, right? A doctor can't treat cancer until you admit that there's cancer. We've got to treat it.
Most
And so
definitely.
I have to get back to, is my purpose to make money, or is my purpose to make change? And my purpose right now is to make change. Prayerfully, the money comes too. But
Mm.
yes, we're claiming that, but it is to make the change I want to
It's
see
coming.
happen.
It's
And
coming. We're
I
claiming it.
know I can do this best this way.
You know, I applaud you in your work. I have been to, different tech companies or sat in on different
Hmm.
conversations or spoken with different leaders who do
Yes.
similar work. And at times you feel like it becomes a little scripted. Um, but it's so, what is it? To me, it is so important to know that you are doing the work because we also know that
Hmm.
tokenism is a real thing, right? So to know that you are doing the work
Hmm.
makes me feel good about the change that is possible and that is happening through, your level of expertise
Which is
and
exactly
what
how
it
I
is
feel
that
about
you've been
you.
called
I
to
mean, I
do.
mean, you are
So important.
definitely my, sister in this, is in that we're trying to make changes and using our voices and being honest, and not just being honest about the issues that exist on the outside, but the issues that we are dealing with
Yes.
ourselves on the inside.
Thank you so much. And, transition is such a real thing. And we've already talked about, like, what we think about ourselves and how much of an impact that can have. But I want to really dig deeply into transition
Hmm.
and how we can really exercise our mental fitness so that we don't
Hmm.
disqualify ourselves. Um, let's just dig right into it. What are some ways that people can be more mindful of what they think about themselves, right?
No one tells you that you're still figuring life out when you're middle aged. I thought, like, I think Michelle Obama's book Becoming was the first time that anyone ever really admitted that, or that I understood it. I always thought that, you had these cross sections in life where,
Mm,
you go to college and, okay, I had to decide who I want to be. And then you have a career. And in my mind, I thought by 25, I was supposed to have it all figured out.
yeah.
No one told me that I was going to be almost 50, start talking about or
Oof.
thinking about what do I want to be when I grow up. I mean, I didn't think that was going to happen. And, so, my son just went off to college, Hampton University, and yay, right? And, he's talking to me about, well, I'm
Yes.
not sure what
Okay.
I want to be. And I wanted to give him this brilliant answer, but I was like, yeah, me either. You know, you know, I don't know either. And, you just figure it out. Right.
I
And
love
so,
that.
I knew I wanted to help people feel a sense of belonging.
Mhm.
Um, I knew that this was my field, and I've just followed my passion. And so, what I would say in transition is, don't expect yourself to have concrete answers. It's okay if you don't, and maybe just go with the answers you've got at that time. And the others will come to you. It kind of seems to form, right? As you just walk in what you know and be okay that you don't know everything,
Yeah.
accept that you don't know everything, and be kind with yourself as you transition. Tell yourself that, as I've done my whole life, I'm doing the best I can with what I know. And it's okay that I don't know everything. And so, are you showing up and giving your
Mm,
best self? And your best self that day, because there's some days that my best self is barely brushing my teeth and staying in my pajamas all day. That's the best I've got that day. That's it, right? That's it. And that's all right. And that is
mm.
okay, because I'm
That's
allowed that.
real.
But, keep, just be proud of yourself for continuously showing up and continuing to figure it out. And even when you're transitioning, or even when you're having mental congestion, you are just, um, forgive yourself and say, because you've done nothing wrong. You're just on your journey. And some days it's going to flow and some days it's not.
You've done nothing wrong. Who needs to hear that? I am raising both hands. Isn't it
Oh,
wild how
gosh.
we begin to play the blame game with ourselves and question our existence and the Most
Hmm.
High? And the universe and everything in between when we're
Right.
in
And transition is a
transition.
part of the growth. And the transition is when we honestly should be celebrating ourselves. Because if you're not transitioning, you're not growing. Right. And so, you know, we applaud people when they
Oh,
talk about not transitioning. It's something that I honestly wish we would change, even with relationships. Um, some people will only applaud those relationships that, oh, my people were married for 52 years. Well, maybe they weren't happy for half of that. Maybe they were. Who knows? But it doesn't mean that maybe it's okay for you to transition and celebrate that you were married for 5 years and celebrate what that union taught you or brought into this world, and that be okay to transition because you're a different person to another relationship or another job or another, location or friendship, like because you're growing, and that is okay to grow.
I never thought about it that way. I think we celebrate promotions, we celebrate the small wins, but it's almost like there is shame attached to transition. And I know a lot of that is self inflicted at times. I'll speak for myself. I most definitely am like, oh, okay, so I got to make X, Y, and Z decisions. And oh, woe is me. And I really shouldn't. And I don't have a plan, but my plan was, and this and this.
Yes.
There's
Hmm.
so much emotion associated with it and shame. And I love that you said celebrate being in transition. I don't think a lot of us
Well, yeah, I don't think so either.
understand
And
fully what
something you
growing
said
pains
earlier
are.
about you know uh, always realizing your purpose. If your journey is, if your
Hmm.
goal is in life, your major goal is to walk in your purpose, right? To walk and honor who you are and what your purpose is. Then things may not have to look like it's unstable, right? Because my what makes me happy may have changed, but what I'm doing, walking in that direction, being my authentic self, hasn't. I think that the reason why we grasp on to things for a long time and are so fearful of transitioning is because we think that equals instability.
Mm. Okay. Number one, what you're not going to do is call me out on my own podcast. No, that's what you're not going to do. You know what? Okay, it's been good. Thank you so much for joining me on the
No,
Get My Life Tour. No, it is.
no, right.
I am there
If your
listening to
purpose
my
has been for the
conversation.
last, let's say, 10 years
Oh my
to speak
gosh.
to women and to encourage women, let's say that's your purpose, that's what you know satisfies you. It doesn't mean you're not stable if you do it one day in writing, you do it another time in your life through a podcast, and you do it another time on a TV show, or you do it another time from your home in Greece. You're still fulfilling your purpose. You're still being true to who you are. But the way it looks, the way it works is the only thing that's changing. And that's not instability. You're still staying true to you. You're still staying true to you.
Mm.
How that looks should change, honestly. And the bold ones are the ones who embrace the change.
You know what I hear
Yes.
is consistency and divine timing. I think those are two things that get lost in our minds as we transition. And for some reason, it is like on my heart to tell whoever is tuned in to look at the patterns of consistency and reflect on the times that you were consistent and allow that to be encouraging. We are not as kind, as faithful, as loyal, as
Right.
committed as we'd like to claim we are to ourselves.
I think that's why we're so healing for each other, and why your podcast is so important, because this is what it is. But
Hmm.
looking at what you're consistent to, but looking to whom you're consistent, because some of us have been consistent where to the wrong people.
Mm.
We can say, you know what, I showed up for that man, every day. I had his dinner there for 10 years. Or you were consistent to a job and stable to a job you didn't like. And really, that's not the kind of consistency me and you are talking about right now. It's being consistent to yourself, being loyal and true to your authentic self and staying true to that. And that will reflect on how you treat everybody else. But that's what I mean, staying consistent to your dreams and beliefs and purpose and yourself.
Oh my goodness. I could talk to you forever. Just like forever. It's fine. We're connected. If you are tuned
Yes.
in and you never hear from Randy again, it is because I have kidnapped her. Um, we'll make sure that all of your children and your loved ones are taken care of. Don't worry. But, I
Mhm.
have to ask about community. Community of self is important, but community, as it relates to those who we are in relationship with and how we build and how we are poured into is so important. I want to ask you, how can people really cultivate meaningful relationships and support systems as they transition?
It's hard for us to ask for help. And what I know that I've done a lot in my life is
Hmm.
get angry at the things that people were not providing to me, but I had never told people what I needed for them to provide for me. I have an attitude like, I cannot believe she did not call me and check on me about how my podcast went, right? But, right? And I never have communicated. And we think that because we do something, somebody else is going to do it. Or we think what's important to us is important to other people. And I have learned now to tell people, like, my birthday just passed. Everyone who knows will say, now, y'all, Randy cares about birthdays. Like, I'm, I care about them. I expect you to show up. My feelings will be hurt if you do not acknowledge it, right? I mean, my boyfriend from the 7th grade texted me on my birthday because that's, he knows who I mean, seriously,
Hmm.
he knows that, right? I mean, I also do acknowledge everybody else's birthdays and make a big deal, but that's my thing. But I can't be angry at people when I haven't told them what I need. So I think being honest and say to people, okay, y'all, I am having one hell of a time at work. My boss is driving me crazy and I need you. Like, girl, I mean, we got to get together for drinks. Because if you just say to people, let's get together for drinks, they may think, oh, it's no big deal. I don't have to show up. And then we're mad, we're crying because no one showed up, right? You have to say, y'all, I need you.
Mm,
I am
so
going
true.
through some stuff and I need my girls. When I was my friends and I used to be a group of us, and we'd always say, we always would call it church. Now it was a bar at Chili's, and it would be margaritas, but we would say, y'all, I need the word tonight, and that's how we would talk. And what that would mean is, I need you tonight. Like, this is not fun. I just want to hang out. You can't skip it. It's like, you need to show up for me if it's possible. So, building a community that shows up for you, but ensuring that you've told people what showing up looks like for you.
That right there is golden. So many of us do not communicate our needs, and no one can guess what
Mm-hmm.
it is that we need. We have to be able to articulate that and know what we need. I
Yeah.
love
So,
that.
and
I
then
really
those that
do.
don't give it to you, that they move down to associates and they're not friends, because friends do show up, or they at least try their, the best to show up. Who respects me, all of me, and that comes with my needs, right? And what someone else needs,
Mm,
eh, you know, like what I give to my best friend is very different than what she gives to me, because we're different people and we have different requirements for what works. But you just have to figure out, what each other needs and how we receive love. And that's in every relationship. And hopefully
mm.
you're surrounding yourself
You
with
know
people
what?
that are on the same journey like we're talking about, where they're discovering their own truths so they can support you in yours. Because you don't need people around you saying, girl, you crazy. Or like making like they're worse than your own self talk.
Oof,
I could do bad by
that.
myself.
And then, of course, it's on us to make sure that we are conducting, those quality control reviews and things of
Yes.
that nature, taking
Yes.
inventory,
And
right?
and because, as much as we try to be good friends to ourselves, and like we say, we get in mental gridlock sometimes, or they're just days, no matter. how many self-help books I read and how much I pray and how much I meditate and took a long bath and got my nails done and got a new hairstyle, I still feel like crap. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you need those
Right.
reinforcements who say, girl, you are bad. You please, girl, please. You know, you need those people. You need a hype
Oh my
squad.
goodness. Randy, yes, you need a hype girl, and you most definitely need to be your
Mm-hmm.
own hype woman or
Yes.
hype man. You know, you have to be. We are now at the point where you have to drop the mic. I feel like you have dropped so many gems, and I don't want to let you go. I really don't. I'm like, why? Oh, because you have an entire life to live and calling to fulfill, and I just cannot be selfish. Okay, great. Um, but every stop on the tour, we have a mic
Mhm.
drop moment, and I will give you a moment to think about what yours is. Um, and when you're ready, go ahead and drop the mic.
Be real, be true, and only surround yourself with people who are real and true to you.
There you have it. I love how transparent, how available you have been during this conversation, and I most definitely appreciate the work that you do. We have spoken about, you being a boss babe. With all due respect, you're a
I
boss babe,
appreciate that.
okay?
And
Look
I,
up
yeah.
Randy B, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm
Oh,
talking
thank you
about.
so much.
Um, and we've spoken about clarity, support systems, the work that you are doing all over the world. You are a globetrotter for real. Let people know how they can stay connected with you.
You can find me on randyb.net. That's Randi, B as in boy.net. On Instagram, I'm Randi, Randi, two underscores B. On Facebook, which is where my community is the biggest, we have some awesome conversations. It's about 70,000 of us, and we talk about everything surrounding really
Wow.
just Black folks, every issue in the world. And that's Randi B. You can just search for that on Facebook. We have a good time on that. And YouTube, Randi B. Yeah, yeah.
70,000.
Not likes but followers. Yeah, we
That
well,
is
and
incredible.
people. What I love the people in the community because we are so respectful of one another. We disagree for sure. And they know I've been, for the last several years, I will kick your butt off. I'm like, how are you we're gonna preach Black love and then you're talking nasty to this sister over here or to this brother over here? Disagree, but be respectful. And
Mm,
so I just think that we think about a lot of stuff and go through a lot of things. And, you know, we have a good time. We have a good time and but it's loving.
that is wonderful. So you most definitely can stay connected with Randy on all of those different platforms. Join her community. Follow her on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Watch her on YouTube at Randy B. Is there anything else? I know you've already dropped the mic, but is there anything else on your heart that you'd like to share before we, exit center
I'd
stage?
really just like to share how much I think you are, how important I think you are. And these times that we get together and share openly and honestly, our ups and our downs and our struggles. And I mean, just thank you for having me. Hopefully we some other people can relate to what we discussed today. And I hope it encourages people to talk to each other about what's really going on, the real deal,
Mm.
so we can help each other, heal and thrive and strive for more.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I'm smiling ear to ear. My cheeks actually hurt because I am overfilled with joy. And this was most definitely the best way to really ramp up season 2 of the Get My Life tour. So I'm forever grateful for you lending your time, your gifts, your treasures, and your expertise to us here on the Get My Life tour. It has been such a great time having Randy B join us. And I hope that you continue on your tour to seek clarity, to build community, and to be kind to yourself during times of transition. It is 2020. And yes, the calendar year may have changed, but you have a lifetime to be and become. It has been real. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Give My Life tour and for rocking with us. You are incredible,
As are
Randy.
you.
Thank you so much.